Right, so very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to PPMK first ever the Roundtable Forum discussion. Yeah. All right, so my name is Owen. I'll be your moderator for today. And as what we have mentioned in our posting on social media, the Roundtable is a forum discussion based program whereby the main focus is to gather as many international students in the Republic of Korea to deliberate on social and current issues that are occurring around the globe. So hopefully through this initiative, we will have it will further enhance our members' cultural understanding and international understanding as well. Right, ladies and gentlemen, before we start, let me introduce our panels for today. So we are very honored to have Mr. Dirgandaru Gali Waskito from the Indonesian Student Association in Korea, also known as PERPIKA. And sitting next to Mr. Dirgandaru, we have Ms. Nur Alia Christina from Malaysian Student Association in the Republic of Korea, or PPMK. Right, so let's get to know them better before we dive deeper into our discussion for today. So can we have Mr. Dirgandaru to introduce yourself?
Thank you. You can call me DJ. I'm serving as the member of External Division, PERPIKA, or Indonesian Association student in Korea, and I'm also part of the strategic culture review team at the PERPIKA as well. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward for having fruitful discussion with you. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Mr. DJ. DJ. Thank you, DJ, and PERPIKA especially for making your time and your effort to join us today. And let us have Miss Alia to introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you, Owen. So, like as you all know, like my name is Alia, or Nino Alia. You can call me Alia. I'm currently holding the position of General Secretary for PPMK, and I'm quite excited to see like what are the stuff that we're going to be discussing today and learn more from it. So, I guess that is it.
Thank you, Alia. Thank you, Alia, for joining us today as well. Right, so ladies and gentlemen, we have brought to you two special and amazing panels for today to discuss about refugees. So our topic for today is Refuge for the Refugees. And refugees, as we know, they are the people who fled war and violence, conflict, or persecution, and have crossed an international border to find safety in other places in other countries. So refugees are defined and protected in international law. So we should be really clear that refugees and asylum seeker are two different things, right? So an asylum seeker is someone who is seeking international protection, but whose claim for refugee status has not yet been confirmed and determined. So in contrast, a refugee is someone who has been recognized under the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees to be a refuge. So the 1951 Convention is a key legal document and defines refugees as someone who is unable or unwilling to return to their country of origin owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social or political opinion. So by the end of 2017, there were 25.4 million refugee men, women, children across the world. So it's happening right now today. And you must be asking why we decide on this topic. Well, Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia are the largest host countries for refugees in Southeast Asia. More than 174,000 refugees that are currently living in these three countries, and that population is probably the same as population in Kluang Johor in Malaysia or in Pamulang district in Banten, Indonesia. So it's a really huge number, right? So moving on.
Indonesia, but for Malaysia, we have been hosting and been fighting for this cause for a very long time, and for this humanitarian cause, because like in Malaysia, ever since the late 1970s until the early 1980s, Malaysia has hosted like Filipino refugees and asylum seekers. And the amount of them that came to Malaysia and reside in Sabah, there were almost like 40 to 60,000 of them. And besides them, we have actually like helped during the 1980s until 1990s the Cambodian and Vietnamese refugees, and also during the 1990s also a small number of Bosnian refugees also came to our country, and we helped them. And not to forget, during the early 2000s, Malaysia also helped Indonesian of province from Aceh, and like we helped them. So like, although we have helped a lot of people, unfortunately we do not sign the 1951 convention. We are not a party to it. We are also not a part of the 1967 protocol. But the Malaysian government has been trying their best in providing aid and ensuring that they are placed safely in our country. And as of 30th December 2020, actually, there are 178,610 refugees and asylum seekers in Malaysia that are registered under UNHCR, which is the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. And that is the amount of people that are registered under UNHCR. But actually, I saw on the article that there are almost 500,000 of people that reside that didn't register. So like, in terms of the current situation right now, as we're battling with COVID-19 and a lot of countries are, grappling with this battle, unfortunately, like, a lot of country has been closing like their borders and being very wary in accepting refugees and asylum seekers, and it is the same as Malaysia. So like, the prime minister, which is Tan Sri Muhyiddin, also like said that although we would like to help, like although we would like to help, we cannot really like fully like, help them and guarantee like their needs are fully, you know, taken care of, because we are exhausting our resources and economies and stuff. So yeah, that is the current situation it is in Malaysia regarding refugees and asylum seekers. Yeah.
Right, thank you, Alia, for the really clear explanation of how is it like the refugee policy in Malaysia. And as what we have mentioned just now, DJ mentioned earlier, and that just now, we all know that the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or for short UNHCR, which was founded in 1950, is a United Nations agency mandated to aid and to protect refugees that was stateless people, and to assist them in their voluntary and local integration or resettlement in a third country. So my next question is, other than UNHCR, what are the some initiatives taken by your government or any other NGOs in your country to cater towards refugees and their human rights? I'll start with TJ. Okay.
Thank you. Maybe talking about this issue, as like what I mentioned before earlier, the Indonesian government itself has not been able, has not been in line with the 1951 Human Rights Declaration or the 1967 Protocol itself, meaning that the Indonesian government by itself doesn't have the obligation to accept and also to give the living for the refugee in the country itself, but we're still doing our own best to try to assist them to get to their like next destination, or like this huge issue of refugee and also this asylum seekers being Indonesia itself was actually only managed by one of the ministries in Indonesia, which is the Ministry of Human Rights, of the Law and Human Rights itself. But before 2016, there was no legal framework, meaning that the treatment of these refugees were like in such a horrible condition itself. So we can see that by the data, by the statistics that has been provided by the Indonesian government after the 2016 decree itself, the number of refugees being held in Indonesia prior to the deportation to the next country dropped from like only 4,000 people to become only less than 100 people up until today, meaning that the framework that is now in place has been successful in dealing with this kind of issue. And also on the project itself, they've been able to provide some sort of security and also some sort of shelters, and also treating them in the Declaration of Human Rights based on the United Nations Declaration. But in terms of NGO itself, maybe I'm not really sure, But what I heard is that some of the NGOs have been trying to collaborate with the Indonesian government in trying to give the basic necessities for these refugees while they're time in Indonesia, while also trying to help them, assisting them with their medical needs, with their, for example, the disabled, ill, the pregnant, also the children would be their number one focus. So there have been some sort of synergize between the NGOs and also between the Indonesian government as an entity itself in trying to give the best maximum effort in trying to deal with this issue. Thank you.
Right. So I can learn that the Indonesian government has implemented on the treatment of refugees from overseas as a legal framework, and on the latest
Reach clinic for Rohingya refugees during the 2010. So like this basic mental health screenings has helped a lot of refugees. There were like around 207 refugees that actually benefited from this. And when, as aforementioned again just now, that when because like Malaysia is didn't sign this convention, we actually by law we do not have any policy for refugees. So like the definition of refugee is kind of blurry. It's a blurry line, and it is often like mixed up around with the migrants, the immigrants. So because of this, like a lot of the refugees are prone to being held in detention or something, because like there is no exact definition for the refugees in our law. So an NGO called Asylum Access Malaysia, or AAM, um, are helping these refugees by providing them legal help by educating them what kind of right you have as a refugee, and what are the legal framework that you need to know, and so on. So besides the NGO, also like the government actually helped accept by accepting like 40 people of Rohingya refugees in the past also. Yeah, I guess yeah, that is it.
Thank you, Alia. So they both mentioned about the children, those who are age under 18, the refugees, those who are under 18. And as I've mentioned earlier, at the end of December 2019, the cumulative number of refugees registered in Indonesia was around 13,000 persons from 45 different countries. And more than half of the population are Afghan refugees, with a total of 27% of these refugees number, they are children who are registered under the UNHCR. As for Malaysia, at the end of 2021, there are 1,700,000 refugees and asylum seekers registered under UNHCR Malaysia. And as what Alia mentioned earlier, 80% of them are from Myanmar, the Rohingyas. 25% of them are children, which age below than 18 years. So we need to think about these children, especially their access to education, their access to better healthcare, their statelessness problem, and especially these young refugees in a whole perspective. So in your opinion, um, are there any improvements that you can suggest regarding the current global policy for refugees, especially for these young children? And yeah, I know they're doing well right now, but maybe okay, I wish they could have done this so that it can be improved in the future. What do you think, DJ?
Okay. Thank you, Owen, for the question. I think, on my personal opinion itself, first of all, we have to acknowledge that refugee itself as a global issue does is it's not a burden, but it's a challenge for all of us. It's an obstacle that if we're able to to try to go like pass over it, then we will all together like we're gonna be able to be more successful in the future, right? So I think itself. Sorry. Oh yeah. So first of all, we have to look at it from the global perspective, right? So it's like an issue that all of us we all have to deal with itself, and then we have to ask ourselves, then what can we do in terms of this kind of situation? Of course, since like we're like none of us are like now in the government or like have any kind of capabilities in terms of creating policy like in terms of this matter. Of course, we have to look at into ourselves. Then what can we do? We as the young people itself, right? We can. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. There was like another question, right? Another question.
Uh,
And the question like the young people. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Mm. Okay. Well, first, I think you can see that from the global perspective itself. Refugee and also other other asylum seekers, they've been like some sort of result of some sort of armed conflict, or or any other conflict in their own country of origin, right, itself. And then we can try to push for discourse in terms of we can try to help them. We can try to help this governments by formulating some policies that would help eventually end this for this current issue as a as a part of a citizens of our country. So yeah, maybe that would be my opinion for the general view.
Right, right. So yeah, thank you, DJ. It's a really brilliant idea on the improvements. So maybe we can like support them through any business, or to have them make business. And because I believe that they do have potentials, but unfortunately they have to face this kind of situation, and they have to flee their own country to find a third country to settle in. So what do you think, Alia? What is your opinion on this?
Okay, thank you, Owen, for like improvement or suggestion for this global policy. Actually, I feel like not just the country who which doesn't sign with the convention is involved in this, but also like the countries who actually like help resettle like a lot of this refugee actually needs to. I feel like they need to give their best in handling them, because like when you look at their when you search for refugees rights, you can see like what kind of rights that they need to have as a human being itself. But what saddens me the most is not only like in other huge part of the country, is that a lot of them are being mistreated. So yeah, that's a very sad part, especially like the kids, especially when they have to be displaced back to their country, or like separated from their parents. That is a huge problem, and I feel like a lot of people in power in other countries, they need to do something about this, probably like by maintaining like the international relations, probably like try and help, because like we as a person here, we can't really like push something. But like people of power, they need to see them as a human being and help them back on their feet and not mistreat them. That is the basic thing that they can do, the least thing that they can do. So yeah, I think that is it.
Right, thank you, Alia, for the honest opinion on that. I do agree with some points, and it's really important to have a leader that see this as a serious issues that are happening, and we are really pity and saddened these young people, these children. They deserve, as I mentioned, they deserve better education because they do have potential, but the problem is what they are facing right now is not what they want it to be happen. Yeah, so moving on to our next question. As I've mentioned earlier, we are more concerned with refugees under 18 years of age, and however these young people, they have to flee war and conflict and so on. So as youth yourself, like we are young, as a youth yourself, how can the youth, like people like us our age, that don't have to face this kind of problem, what is our responsibility, our role to help to overcome this global issue of refugees? We cannot do much, but at least we have like must have this kind of educate ourselves about these issues. What do you think, DJ?
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Owen. I think, yeah, I agree with what you just said earlier. Because like now we're still youth. Like we don't have like any kind of power in our hands to to influence the policy regarding this issue. But I think what we can do as a whole generation is that we can look into ourselves, and we can see what we can do our best, which is connecting to other people, right? We are like really good in in making connection, right? And so I think that would be like our biggest strength in that we can put ourselves to, is to make connection. By saying that, I mean, we can make some sort of an awareness for the society, and that way they can also connect to what it is, to what it's like for the refugee living in these kind of conditions, especially the young people under the age of 18. Those kind of people like who are going through like the most hardest part of their life, when they're supposed to be, having the greatest time of their life, when they're supposed to be playing with their friends, experiencing life like in the most basic forms. They have to, to go through like this kind of terrible things, meaning that they have to leave behind their life in their country. They have to, to put their effort into going to abroad to other places, which would actually put them in a higher risk of, maybe, for example, like human trade, issues. But I think let's stay on this focus. And then we, as young people, like we don't have the capacity to influence the people in power, but we can always influence the people who are the society. We can help awareness towards, towards refugee, towards the asylum seekers, what they've been going through and what they will go through itself, right? And so I think, us as being the young people, we can use that as our, like biggest power, in this, in this refugee as a whole, right? So I think, I'm gonna stick with the connection itself as our biggest power. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, DJ. Thank you, DJ, for your opinion about that. Okay. And how about Alia? What do you think on this issue?
Okay, so like regarding this issue as youth, the thing that we need to do is we need to do something, right, to make a change. We can't just complain and just be sad and empathize for them. So like the first thing that we need to do is just like what DJ has said and Owen has said just now, that we need to educate ourselves. Especially like I feel like a lot of people tend to confuse between the term refugees, asylum seekers, or undocumented migrants. So like when you don't know the basic term for it, you tend to confuse yourself and quick to jump to conclusion about it, right? So like the first thing is you need to educate yourself. And once you have educated yourself, what you can do is educate the people around you, so people are more aware about it. And if you want to feel like like you're doing something great, like in Malaysia, since like UNHCR is mostly handling the refugees problems, there is actually a volunteering program for those who actually want to help. If you go to the website, you can register to become a part of it, and there's a lot of programs that UNHCR has done to help the refugees by giving them tutoring and other stuff. So if you feel like you want to do something, you can do by volunteering. Or if you're on the part of, like a bit shy, or you want to do the things like on your pace, you can help by, doing fundraising or stuffs with your friends and contribute financially if you feel like you're good that way. And also like when I mentioned just now, there is actually like an NGO that help in providing like legal help, right? So like if you are a lawyer or something, you're good in that part of it, you can utilize your skills. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. You don't have to be people in power to really do something, to make a change. You can do it with your own pace, with your own style, with your own skills. So don't worry, just do something. Yeah. So I guess that is what youths can do, right?
I understand. I want to add on earlier. I searched on their website, UNHCR. They did mention that if you are each below than 25, you can apply for, I think, overseas volunteering. If you are below 22 years of age, you can apply in your own country. So that's the volunteering for the refugees in international area. And have you heard about the Goodwill Ambassador? The Shiwon, is it from Shiwon, the Super Junior? Yeah, he is volunteering for the global refugees. So that's the example that we can do. They're setting this good example for the people, and especially right now in the pandemic situation, you have to think, because I'm Malaysian, Indonesian people, every people that have their own countries to live in. But how about these people? Where they're going? What they're gonna eat? Are they just like sailing on the sea? Seeking for a place to stay. I don't know about that. So my
And to promote the refugee in community involvement, so they are not shunned or feel very separated from the community itself. So this actually support the refugees to become an active participant in the New Zealand community. So I think that we can learn from this. Yeah, I think that is it.
Okay, thank you, Alia and DG. And because we can always volunteer, as what Alia mentioned just now. There are some NGOs in Indonesia and Malaysia. They are driven to provide aid and education, especially to these young people. For example, in Indonesia, we have SWAKA, the Indonesian Civil Society Network for Refugee Rights Protection. And in Malaysia, we have Refuge School, the Pelangi Kasih, and we have Hila Community. And surprisingly, Hila Community was founded by a small group of Korean people who live in Kuala Lumpur, and they recognize what the refugees are facing, and they started to initiate to help them. So these are what I've mentioned, just a small amount. I believe there are more NGOs out there, waiting for them. So all right, that's it. Our last questions for Refuge for Refugees for today. And before we wrap up for today, maybe we can hear some last word from our panels, from DJ perhaps.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you for the chance. I think what I have to, what, I mean, like what I can say is that refuge itself and also asylum seekers do not see them as a problem, do not see them as an issue, but see them as a potential and also as a resource for us, to overcome ourselves, right? And so if we're able to, to go past through this, then we're gonna be able to come out as a better human, and also as a better nation itself, right? So because a good nation, as a nation that would not see something as a problem, but see something as a potential for a great outcome for everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Like for me, what I want to say for last is that just like DJ said, like we need to empathize more, right? To them, do not see them as a burden. Do not distinct them aside from you, because like we're all human. We need to put ourselves in their place and try to imagine how they are feeling. What if we are currently going through what they're going through? So like as a human being, and the smallest kindest thing that you can do is to try and empathize with them. So that's the least that you can do, and educate ourselves more. And actually like this roundtable actually like gave me a chance and the opportunity to actually like educate myself more. Like probably I know a slight, slight knowledge about it, but now that I research more, I'm like, okay, so this is how it is in our country, or this is how it is in other country. And and from there we can like sharpen our mind more and truly be more aware about how serious this is. This is not just an issue that the government needs to settle, or it is their problem or whatever, but we also can be a part of it. So yeah, I think that is it for me.
Thank you, Alio and DJ. That's it for today. We have almost come to an end for today's discussion on Refuge for Refugees. I personally, I mentioned earlier, I personally learned a lot from this session as well, as I did a background search of what refugees is, and to get to understand more about refugees, both in Indonesia and Malaysia, and hopefully in Korea as well, because here we have Yemen refugees, right? So yeah, well, that's it for today. Thank you so much again, DJ, from the Indonesian Student Association in Korea. Prupika, thank you once again. Yeah, thank you, Alia, from PPMK, Malaysian Student Association in Korea, for your time and effort. And of course, our viewers to stay until the end of our today's live station. And hopefully, for the upcoming roundtable session, we will come up with a more interesting topic that is, of course, occurring globally. And we will like to see you guys for the next session. And I think that's it. See you guys for the next session, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.